Hey home bakers, it's Jack here, bakewithjack.co.uk, bringing you your weekly bread making tip every single Thursday. And this week, fan or no fan, convection or conventional? The answer is probably not as simple as you think. Let's go. Hey you guys, and welcome back to the Bake with Jack YouTube channel, where I share with you a little bit of my bread making expertise every single Thursday. If you haven't clicked subscribe yet and this is your cup of tea, have a think about it. So after last week's pretty heavy start to finish sourdough video, this week is more of a quicker one. A discussion point, if you will. It's a question I get asked a lot. Is it best to bake my bread with or without the fan? Some people got ovens where you can turn the fan off. I don't. I just have a fan and that's the way it goes. But the answer to the question is not a straightforward one. It's not one or the other. It really depends on your oven. Now, I've been hosting bread making courses in other people's houses since 2013 and baking bread in restaurants, hotels, all over the place, all different environments for a further 6 years before that. There's a few things I discovered along the way. If you Google the answer to this question, you'll likely come across something along the lines of bread and cakes need moisture in order to bake properly and nicely, and therefore you should bake in an oven without a fan because the fan will dry things out. This is not always the case. All the breads I baked, like the sourdough last week and everything that you see on my Instagram feed, is baked in my fan electric oven. It's an electric oven with a fan. It's convection oven. Those two things are the same. Convection is a word for a fan oven. The fan in your oven is there for a couple of reasons. One, it blows the heat around the oven the whole time, making it a much more even heat than a conventional oven. And secondly, it helps the food inside to cook quicker. It's about heat penetration, the time it takes for the heat to get the middle of whatever it is you're making. A conventional oven doesn't have that fan, and so inside it tends to be, I say tends, to be hotter on the top and cooler on the bottom. I remember my old gas oven I used to have, and it was so hot on the top and so much cooler on the bottom, I had to turn a jacket potato upside down halfway through the cooking process to make sure it cooked evenly. Not to mention the fact that I had to bake it for twice as long to make sure that could happen. This is an extreme circumstance, but even still, a conventional oven does have a more uneven heat throughout the oven. Sometimes they heat from underneath, sometimes they heat from the top, sometimes they heat from both, but there's no air flow going on in there. There's a more important issue at play here, and you saw it last week in my sourdough video, right? Is that the seal on the door of your oven. If that seal was complete, that's great. The idea is with bread, you want to keep steam inside the oven for as long as possible to bake it in a humid environment. You need that steam because your bread goes in, it goes puffs, and then the outside sets. If you've got that steam in there, it can go further and further and further, busting open on the top like a nice, beautiful sourdough loaf, right? But the seal on the door has to be complete for that to be able to happen. You want to keep that moisture inside. Some ovens eject steam out of somewhere, out of the back of it, or out of the front. There's a vent or somewhere to eject the steam out of it, so that when you open the door, it doesn't puff you in the face with loads of steam. If your oven does puff you in the face with loads of steam when you open the door, that means it's a good oven for making bread inside, regardless of the fact that it's fan or it's not fan. Everybody's oven is different. I know this, I've learned it because I walk into a scenario where there's an oven and we figure it out along the way to get the best results out of it. By the time I leave that house, we've nailed it. And most of the time we nail it straight away, but sometimes it takes a couple of things in the beginning in order to get it right. I do a couple of tests when I arrive at somebody's house. I bake biscuits, I bake vegetables for our salads, so I know what we're dealing with. I know how steamy it is, I know where the hot spots are, I know exactly what we're dealing with by the time the bread goes in. So listen. Everything I bake in my oven is a fan oven. I don't have the option of turning it off, and if I did, I probably wouldn't anyway because everything comes out just nice. But the seal is complete. There's nowhere for that steam to escape. I would love to give you a straight up answer on this. I would love it if there's a one size fits all, but there is, like a lot of things, there really isn't a one size fits all. It's about your oven at home, and that's why it's worth talking about it. Your oven is unique. Get to know your oven. Spend some time with it. Take it out for dinner. Try out some new things together. The best oven to bake bread in is the one that you've already got, and if you're fortunate to be able to upgrade your oven, I'd pick a fan any day of the week. Fan, convection oven with a complete seal any day of the week. So there's two pieces of advice that I'd like to give to you. If you've got the option of a fan and turning the fan off, try them both. Try the same thing one after the other and see what comes out best. And if you do have a conventional oven that heats more on the top than underneath, you might have to flip your loaf upside down for a little bit, and that's okay. You can do that. There you have it, you guys, another very complicated answer to what seems like a very straightforward question. If you've liked this video, please do click that thumbs up, and if you want to stick around for next week's bread tip, click subscribe, and I'll see you next Thursday for another weekly bread making tip. Bye-bye. Well, there it is, bread making tip number 102. We are back, and a special thank you to everybody who bought stuff from the Bake with Jack shop last week after that sourdough video. You guys cleaned me out. So if you missed out on picking up your scrapers, cloths and bread making bits and bobs, stock is on its way. Head over to bakewithjack.co.uk/shop, shipping worldwide. See you next week.